I'm doing very well, very well. I'm excited to do this. It's awesome.
So yeah, thank you for coming to my show and trying to tell the work that you are doing to my audience and to the world who is watching and listening to me and who is following me.
Oh yes, yes. Well, one, thank you for having me on. I love how how quickly you're like, oh yeah, let's do the show. I think you like the fastest responder ever. So I'm just really excited to be here. And I guess speak to your audience. I really love what you're doing. So it really is my pleasure to join you today. Well, I guess nighttime for you, but yeah.
Yeah. So before that, one small request. Can you put your screen little downward so that you will fit in the camera?
Oh yeah. Let's see. That'll be better.
Yeah, this is great.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Yes,
Yeah. So
yes,
I want to introduce you to my audience. Can you please introduce yourself to my audience?
yes. My name is Walter Gator the Second. I am the host of Boss Locks. It's a show where we speak to Black leaders from around the world to understand the range of Blackness and hear their stories of new growth. And I'm also a podcast producer for a podcasting company and basically helping people, businesses just create shows that kind of help them reach their goals in life, goals in business. I'm just here to help creatives, create, do what they love to do. So, yeah.
So you're from?
I'm originally I'm in America. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina, but I live right now in Atlanta, Georgia. It's I really enjoy it. It's in the South. It's kind of known for hip hop music, black culture, and the food here is amazing too. We got food from all over the world here in Atlanta. Oh, we get moving up in movie scenes as well. A lot of Marvel movies are filmed in Atlanta, so sometimes, like, if you really know an area very well, you can be like, "Oh, that was in that one movie." Like Spider-Man, part of it was filmed here. So we got the movie scene. We have music, food. So it's really a really great place just to be in.
So Boss Locks, what is this and when did you started this?
So I launched it last year during the pandemic, but I actually started it in 20. Well, I really started in 2016, and I started it because I was getting ready to graduate from school, and I have locks. They're kind of up right now, but I had locks and had them for a while. And people were asking me, my whole life, I always got plenty of compliments about my hair, my locks. Everyone loved it. But as I was getting ready to graduate, the conversations changed from praise to people recommending that I cut my locks if I want to get a good job. Um, like in America, you could basically companies can discriminate and decide I don't want to hire you literally just because of your hair. They're legally allowed to do that. So that was happening around the time I was graduating. So I was just kind of curious, like, okay, so one, I know I'm not going to cut my hair because it's important to me, but at the same time, I don't know how I'm going to enter the world and get a job, um, so I could live. So I started to ask people advice just to see, like, okay, how are you able to kind of get to where you're able to go? So I spoke to like three different people. I got three different advice from them, and after more conversations, people really recommended that I really do something with it. So reluctantly, I didn't want to do it, but I started recording these conversations and just still wasn't sure what I was doing with it, but just kept on having the conversations. And eventually, when the pandemic hit and I was just kind of sitting there like, what do I do now? I was like, all right, let's go ahead and launch it. So put it out into the world. The world the world was happy with it. They loved it, and really gave me the push to keep on going with it. So I'm a year in, getting ready for season two of Boss Locks, and I'm really excited.
So how many episodes you did, and what is it about?
So I right now there are 35 episodes published, but I've probably have interviewed like 50 different people by now. And there's even more just like, ready to go when it's time. I have like I think 50 interviews recorded, 30 published, and I got like 20 more people waiting to be interviewed. And basically it's a show where we kind of speak to black leaders from different walks of life who have natural hair just to learn about how they identify besides just being black. Because oftentimes we're kind of labeled based on the color of our skin, but that's just part of us. That's just the appearance. There's more to us than just what we look like. So I go in deep just to understand who they really are and how they fall into the range of blackness. And then also, we talk about how they've become a leader, how they've navigated professional environments, their natural hair journey. But like my favorite part is really to talk about their experience with new growth. How they got into where they are today, and also where they're continuing to go. It's really amazing the types of conversations things get. Personal. Things are like there's moments where we celebrate. There's a lot of different emotions that could come up in these conversations. So it's a really great experience just to learn.
So it's an amazing concept that you came with. So uh, how many people have shared their experiences about the blacks and the beaters?
Yeah, the black, well, everyone I interview is black actually. So when I say 50 people, I mean 50 black people. And I think it's really powerful because, when I started on this journey, it was 2016. I was looking for black leaders to just be an example so I could see it, and I couldn't find anyone. I mean, they existed, but the internet was a little bit different back then. It was harder to find what you were looking for. So these are 50 people who are examples of what it can look like when you truly believe in yourself. So really, everyone has been open to kind of answering those questions about how they identify, who they are as a person, as a black person, as a leader. So yeah, everyone's been open to the experience, and all the listeners they've enjoyed the whole journey so far, just hearing directly from people like what it's like to be them.
So your personal experience made you to start this and uh, uh, try to do this revolution.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. I was basically trying to solve a problem that I was experiencing, and at first I thought it was just a me problem, but as I kept going, I realized it's one, this whole thing is bigger than me, but two, there's a lot of people who are experiencing the same issue and also several different ones at the same time. People who are nervous about letting their hair grow the way it does naturally. People nervous about just being black in white environments. People just nervous about being themselves while still trying to be black, if that's even a thing. So, yeah, I started this from my personal experiences, and I'm continuing to evolve it based on further experiences other than my own.
So successfully you have completed more than 30 episodes. So you have heard perspectives and point of views and the experiences of different people. So what you learned and you understood from all different people? Are they
Yeah.
from only US or from other country too?
Um, Most of them are from the U.S. But one thing that I'll be able to start seeing more of in season two is just people from other countries, and my goal is to speak to people in like I want to try to get 20 different countries in the next 2 years. So I've been able to speak to a lot of people in the UK and also one person in South Africa and a few other people from the African continent who I'm going to speak to soon. But I haven't yet. There's a few people in Japan trying to get a hold of, but I really am trying to go into all sorts of different countries just to hear about the Black experience from around the world. Because one thing I learned last year during the pandemic and a lot of the Black Lives Matter movements is just seeing a lot of other movements in other countries. Not only Black people, other people as well, but it's like, wow, we all kind of experience something a little bit similar. It's different from each culture, and each problem that each culture experiences is very important. I think it all needs to see the light of day. But even in the differences, I see a lot of similarities when it comes to oppression, not being allowed to express yourself, being just the way that classism and poverty affects people. There's a lot of different things that we all experience, but for each culture, there's like a different solution or a different aspect to that problem. So it's really important to me to speak to people from all over the world. I think that we could learn from each other and really support each other to help. We all got to level up. That's the goal. Help everyone level up. So yeah.
So tell me about the great black leaders that you know and that changed the society or the world or a company or
Mhm.
bought a new rule or made a new thought as a rule.
Yeah. So that's a good question, because when we think about like who are the black leaders, you know, previously we always look back in the past to Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, maybe a few businessmen, but a lot of like civil rights leaders who really helped us reach to the point where we are today. There's a lot more work to do, but we're still going. And now there's, I think what's kind of beautiful is that there are a lot of like well-known black leaders, but there's also a lot of people who are kind of in the community doing a lot of amazing work. One person I'm thinking of that I got to interview last year is Coach Taj Omari, and she started a nonprofit to help, basically help people without resources or access to pools learn to swim. In America, there's a stereotype that black people can't swim, and um, a lot of people can't. I can't swim that well at all. Like I wouldn't jump in the deep end at all. I'm staying in the kiddie pool, but that's because of a lot of things in the past that kind of kept us from learning how to swim. People draining the pools in the black neighborhoods, people just really kind of physically stopping you from going to the water. So there's a lot of reasons for why people just haven't been able to do this and that. So she's one person. She's in Atlanta doing some amazing work. We got someone named Ronald Osborne. He's in Texas, and he is really becoming a media mogul, but really creating a lot of opportunities for Black people to get their music heard, their businesses seen, and find new ways to make money. Another person whose interview hasn't come out yet, but her name is Princess Matombi. She's in South Africa, and she is one of the leaders at this nuclear company, and is kind of leading this peaceful nuclear movement and really showing the world how nuclear can be used not to create weapons, but in an environmentally clean way, not just some like political propaganda like, oh, nuclear is fine, but literally like, okay, if we want to use nuclear, here's a way to go about it that's like ethically okay and safe. So yeah, I could probably go on for the rest of the interview just talking about people, but yeah, there's people from all over. Someone named Kenny Henry, he's out in California. He runs like 5 different nonprofits. One is to prevent human trafficking, another is based on literacy, and he's also just speaks a lot about black culture. He's also into media as well. Yeah, there's so many people doing some amazing, wonderful things. People who are just starting out, people who've been doing it for years. It's really amazing when you get to see people who look like you doing some things that would be either illegal back in the day just because they were black, um, or just impossible because we don't always have access to resources, money. Like we really are doing the impossible, just starting with what we can and building something amazing. So I try to support where I can, show people what's being done, because I think when we start to see images of us being successful, it kind of does something to yourself. It does something inside. You're like, oh, I could see myself being just like that. And once you have that belief, opportunities are endless. The possibilities are limitless. So many things that we could do just when we start to believe.
So tell me about the experiences that people who came to your show and told uh, the experiences that they had.
Yeah. It's interesting because oftentimes we don't always get to talk about things that kind of matter to us or affect us. So, for starters, I like to interview people with natural hair. And oftentimes we don't really get to talk about what our hair means to us. Like, it's not just a hairstyle, but there's a way that it impacts our life and the way we approach things. So, just giving people the opportunity to speak about things that they don't always get to is really cool because you really see the passion behind everything they say. Like, there's a lot of care into it. And, you know, some conversations also get a little like dark as people start to share about how they were abused in the past, or some trauma that they've experienced, or talking about mental health. Mental health is something that I think that there's a lot more attention on it right now. But previously, if you spoke about mental health, you were looked at like you were crazy, a lunatic, to get locked up or something. But now I think there's a lot more education and information that's being spread around and communicated. So we get to have conversations on my show about um, like just beyond depression, like the different phases of it, what it could look like, how things from past generations can affect us today. And it's so crazy. Trauma is a really big subject, and it's one that you just got to start. You just got to dive into it and just go as far as you can. But we're really starting to have more of these conversations on the show, and also how it affects like our working life, our personal lives, relationships, how we look at things, and how we identify.
So what are the qualities that the blacks have and they are unable to show only because of they are black? They're
Hmm.
not getting recognition because of black. That the qualities or the positive things that they have, what they are missing.
So, what are things that we have that maybe other people don't have, and then what are things that we're missing? Hmm.
Yeah, what
So,
are the things that you people have and you are unable to express or show the talent or not able to get the recognition or not able to get what you wanted only because of you being black.
okay. That's something else I could talk about for a long time because so I guess for starters, we could talk about things like just entertainment. I think is usually kind of what we're looked at because previously that was all we were allowed to do, and even in those instances, it was only a limited scope. In American history, and I'm sure around the world as well. Um, there were times where white people would pretend to be us, act like us, mimic us, sing like us. But not only that, they would cover themselves, like paint themselves black to look like us as well, make their lips super red to kind of mimic us. And we were basically a joke. And so I honestly think for a while, often people, when black people did find success, they could only um, express themselves in ways that were allowed to them. So we saw a lot of black people kind of being characters that weren't really them. But when you don't have a lot of access to things, you're given an opportunity. Sometimes we don't feel like we have a choice. So I think even times like today, there's a lot of people who feel like they can only act or perform in a way that white people or people in power say is okay to be. And I wanted to start with entertainment because that really trickles down to everything else. Because one thing that I always like to talk about is working while black. And I think that we have a lot more control over how we work, where we work, how we show up to work. And that's part of what I want to show people with my show. But even then, we're kind of asked forced, pushed to walk, talk, look just like white people, like try to reduce as much blackness as possible to make other people feel comfortable. And that's kind of similar with entertainment. It's like, oh yeah, you could be entertaining as long as you make us feel comfortable. That shows up in work, that shows up at school, where things like hair care are kind of shunned. Like there were a lot of students, and even more today, who were kicked out of school not because they were violent, not because they were doing anything illegal in school, but just because their hair was a little too long. They were kicked out of school, suspended indefinitely, and there's a lot of big movements that came from that, like the Crown Act, which is currently being passed. It's starting to show up in other countries as well, where people are protected. But still, even to this day, I know someone in my family who they had to decide whether or not they're going to stay at the school they're at and just cut their hair or keep their hair the way they want it to be. But if that's the case, they're going to be like suspended or kicked out of school. It's like these are some of the things that we're faced with that aren't talked about as much. So yeah, when it comes to things we're able to do, we're able to do a lot of really beautiful things like arts, expression that are meaningful to our cultures, and oftentimes that expression is shunned or just laughed at. And another thing that kind of sucks about is like, let's say, my hair is mocked or laughed at. Oftentimes, other cultures will start to adopt the hair and they'll be celebrated. The same hairstyle, but they'll be celebrated like, oh, so innovative, so amazing. But if we do it, we're looked at like dirt, below dirt. Like we're looked at like criminals, where it's expected just to be up to no good, not worthy, dumb. So yeah, that's a good question. When you think about like what qualities we have and what things we're not allowed to do, it's it really sucks because it's very parallel. And I think what's really great now is the one I think our generation we're kind of like, well, not to speak past of past generations, but for past generations, like you're likely met with death if you went against the rules. But now, we have a lot more, power, and our words are we're being seen more, so we could take more chances and risk and really say like, no, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're going to show up how we're going to show up. And so that's what I want to show. People who are kind of taking that risk really to be like, I'm not going to show up the way you wanted me to show up. I'm going to show up how I want to, because how I want to is really cool. It's amazing and it's valuable. I'm not only that, but it's just me. So yeah, that's what myself and a lot of other people during this time are looking to do. It's like, hey, it's time for us to show up how we want to show up.
So tell me about life as a creative.
Yeah, so life as a creative is interesting and it's different for everybody, but there's like it's really amazing once you find the thing that you feel like you're supposed to do or you feel fulfillment from. Like I don't know how you feel kind of doing these interviews, but like I feel like if I'm not doing something related to my podcast, I don't feel as fulfilled, or I feel like there's other things I'm supposed to be doing. It's like a true calling. I think it's kind of similar. Early in my life, I played soccer. Soccer was everything was surrounded by soccer at one point, or football. As people, soccer definitely American around the word football. But basically, there were times where I played on two teams at the same time. Like I loved the sport. There were dates that didn't work out because I was too busy playing. But and I got to play in college as well. So I think it's kind of like when you find that creativity, at least in my life, it's kind of similar to my experiences playing soccer, where I just love it with the passion and want everything to be surrounded by it. So, life as a creative is kind of finding the same way, and there's a lot of struggles with it as well, especially when you're not as financially stable as you want to be. When you still have to show up for work that has nothing to do with your creativity. It's interesting having to find that balance between the two. Like, okay, how do I find time to still create while still maintaining my job, while still maintaining the relationship with people I care about. Um, like what do I do? How do I do it? So yeah, life as a creative is interesting. It's beautiful. It's confusing. It's messy, but it's all great at the same time.
So tell me about you becoming a podcast producer.
Yeah, so that's a recent thing. So during that when I said, I started my own podcast in 20 started doing the work for it in 2016, launched it 2020. In that same period of time, I actually helped a few other people kind of get into their own podcasts and everything. So I've been kind of doing some producer work for a while, but this year is the first time that I actually become like an actual professional producer. What I mean by that is it wasn't just an entrepreneurial thing. Um, it's actually a career of mine now. Like before, it's like, okay, let me try this out, see what happens. But now it's like, okay, I'm actually getting paid to do this by this company. So it's been really great because one, it it validates, it confirms everything that I thought about podcasting. Now I know for absolute 100% truth. It's all facts. Like podcasting is a really great way to grow as a person, a creative, and also business wise as well. So I finally feel like, okay, yeah, I'm on the right track with this podcast journey. But also being a producer, I'm learning so much and be able to speak to so many different people. Like one of my customers actually invited me to interview the president of his company, and they have a pretty big company, so it's really cool just being able to do what you love, but connect with your the people you work with as well. It's really amazing. I love it. I love being so close to media because that's what I've wanted to do for years.
So tell me about your observation uh, about the cultures.
The culture of podcast or the
Yeah,
work culture.
the cultures in countries, in different countries.
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's really cool to hear about other people's cultures, just to see the differences, the similarities. I think oftentimes we look at all the differences, but there's a lot of similarities. Like at the end of the day, we're all human, so we're going to end up doing the same thing. But also just seeing how different ways of lives are shaped by that culture's history, their traditions. I think besides American culture, the other culture I was really immersed in was actually in China. So I got to go to China while I was in college, and really I was there for a month. And of course, you could only learn so much from being there for a month, but it's really cool just to be there and experience it the way I did. As our tour guides were students, those we were taken to all the different places they would go to, and I really loved kind of just seeing how important history was there. So yeah, cultures is something I'm looking into. It's a project of mine actually to basically go throughout history and find different hairstyles that were important to the culture, why they were important, and what was going on during that time period. Because I think that we we keep these traditions alive, but sometimes the meaning behind them they're they're forgotten, they're misinterpreted, or just like um yeah, they just kind of fall short. We don't realize the importance of them. But the hairstyles that we have, the way we walk, different clothing, it all came from a certain time, and there's a lot of beautiful stories there. So um in fact, like something like tea, I remember actually one of my interviews with Eugene Hayes. It's not out yet, but that's season 2. We talked about tea and how, like, I was talking about a tea ceremony I got to experience in China, and he started telling me about this tea ceremony in Ethiopia. And so, like, something just as simple as talking about tea really led to all these different stories and cultural exchanges around how people in this environment approached tea and what it meant for them. So there's a lot of beautiful um, stories that could come when we really start to look at our history.
It's
Oh, it's
it's
raining over
raining.
there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was
Yeah.
lightning, so I felt scared. So coming to the new growth. Tell me about new growth and how it means to you.
Yeah. So new growth, it's when you think of growth, there's a lot of different things you could talk about there. But when I say new growth, that's something that's part of the black culture, black identity, with natural hair. So I have locks, and I've had locks since 2007. But my hair doesn't just like start off like this. It starts off, it grows naturally. You might be able to see a little bit of it, but this is what we call a new growth. When it first comes out of our scalp into the world, it's the natural look. Um, One thing that's part of that new growth and the culture behind it is like for a while we always try to hide it or cover it up or change it as soon as it's there, because it was looked at as messy, dirty, ugly, all these things embarrassing. And that's because of years of oppression and things like that as well. But um, I started really just diving deeper into like that new growth and really embracing it and stop trying to hide it. So now my new growth is showing, but I don't rush to go get it twisted. I let it grow because it's beautiful. And I started looking at life as that as well. There's all these different um, moments of failure, loss, messing up, mistakes, embarrassing moments. Really looking at it is like, okay, you know what? This is just part of the journey to growth. Because all these different moments, there's things I'm learning from. All these different moments kind of help me become who I am today. So it's like without these moments of struggle, failure, like are you really growing? Because like you could try to fast track your way to success, but if you're not having those mistakes, that means you're not learning about what not to do in those situations or how to handle yourself or who you really are as a person. Um, Otherwise, if you just skyrocket jump right to success, you're not. It's almost like you're not a complete version of yourself. So, I started this concept called "I Love New Growth" as a way to really encourage people to embrace all things that come with your journey to growth.
Tell me about boss logs, the coming content and boss logs.
Yeah, so Boss Locks, I'm really excited because what started as a way for me to prove to the world that natural hair and professionalism do coexist has really turned into just a really, really cool opportunity to talk about identity, natural hair, and the Black experience as a whole. So, this past year, I've held live shows about, holding cops accountable and looking at police brutality and the relationship with the community, be able to talk about, um, mental, physical, and just, your well being. Got to talk about black economics and really supporting small businesses that are black owned. And so really coming next is just a continuation of all of that. But being approached not just a hey, let's try something out, but really approaching like, yo, let's actually do something here. Let's plan this out and make this sure that it all has value and impact. So my goal from here on out is to continue educating, entertaining, and giving people a voice, giving people opportunity to learn, and giving people the space to grow unapologetically. That means, celebrating mistakes because, hey, you could punish someone for mistakes, but there's a lot there. So we're just creating space. That's the goal, creating space for growth.
So uh, I have friends who are black and who came from Sudan and who studied with me,
Oh,
who
nice.
did masters with me, who studied software engineering with me, and with me, I didn't saw them as a different species or different human beings. I always felt very comfortable talking with them and sharing knowledge, talking about the subjects, and I never felt that they are a different. They have a different color. We didn't even thought about that because we was very busy in trying to concentrate on the concepts that we are into. But
Right. Too busy
I
learning.
don't. Yeah, because they have a lot of knowledge about how to do things, how to make softwares, and they are very intelligent. So I got a lot of knowledge from them. So yeah, there is discrimination. I'm not saying that there is. Uh, there may be places where blacks are treated like maybe I don't know the number, but most of the in this diverse world, not everybody have the same color, same experience, or same. Not necessary that color only matters. Even the people who are white, they have fights between them. When
Very
the
true.
blacks have fights between them, even uh, men and women have different experience backgrounds, and they're getting married and they have the differences, and you know the the difference is there. The world is different. There is no same in the world, so everything is different. One person don't think like other person, one person don't look like other person, one person don't have the qualities like other person, so everything is different. So it's important for everybody on this planet, every culture, who came from any culture, who came from any religion, any caste, any, even he's educated or she's educated, not educated, have no work experience. It can be anybody, kids, elders, any age. Everybody should be treated equally, and everybody should get the same amount of respect, because everybody at the end of the day, we all have right to live on this planet. Everybody have the same right to live on this planet, and everybody should be treated well. I'm sure you're trying to tell the importance of the blacks, and I'm sure that will make a lot of people to think and give importance to everybody. And I don't think, because a lot of black people are great leaders, like you mentioned, because Barack Obama, there are a lot of blacks who are, people in India, I know, take inspiration. They never talk about whether they are black or white or brown or any color. They're talking about what they did as a leader, how they united, how they created the team, how they made things possible, how they took decisions, how they implemented the policies. So it was more into the construction, more into how to develop the society in universally. That is why the reason, they become leaders. They have that special, the great qualities. Maybe the whites may not have. That's why the reason black become leaders. So I don't think everybody are doing this in the world, and everybody is treated less. I think there may be some places, there may be people like you mentioned, that people are coming with different their experiences, and that is, I don't agree with that. I want them to I want even they to have the same amount of respect. So, but still, what you're doing is really uh, important. I'm sure lot of people get benefit because of the voice of yours through your podcast.
Yeah, yeah. It's thank you for that. I think it's important because it's like things like this can be forgotten about pretty easily. But it's really cool when you start to hear about like you mentioned, when you have close relationship with people from Sudan, and you don't even have to talk about race for real, but when you start to really find those common similarities, like you're here coming together to learn together. But Yeah, it's really great. I think it's great that we're becoming a super diverse world and everything, and it's also great that as I think it's actually because of the internet. Like that's why you and I are connecting. But I think that we're able to kind of speak about our own true experiences as well, because I'm sure like some of those leaders who've done like amazing things, like you were just mentioning, they've probably experienced some like little, moments where people were questioning their own intelligence, their own value, and kind of felt like they really had to overprove themselves. So it's like those moments like that, we have to shine a light on there. shine a light on the amazing things people are doing all over the world. And yeah, celebrate those differences because you're right. We're all different, and that's okay. That's okay. So
And also, if you observe my YouTube channel, you will see a lot of blacks came to my show. Lot of blacks
yes, and you
came to
have all
my
sorts of
show, and they are. I gave the same importance. I never thought that they are different people. I never differentiated them. But I mean, when it comes to me, in fact, I learned a lot from them.
Mhm.
I gained a lot of knowledge because of what they said. Their skills, their experiences made me to think. And one person I remember who is from US, who is a physical coach, who is into physical thing. So he was extremely motivating. He was extremely uh, high voltage person. Like he was like extremely. He was every word of his was creating impact on my mind. So the way he's explaining about how things work, how we should do things, how we should maintain the body and all. So lot of people. And also I have a technical channel where people who are blacks and who are into Amazon Web Services, like who are into technology, who is studying the same subject that I am studying. So who have same. We was talking only about the subject. We don't even know whether what uh, what hairstyle they have, what dressing style they have, or what uh, walking style they have. We are not concentrating on what their physical thing is. We was more into the topics and the subject. Uh, so up to my thing, they are extremely intelligent. They are extremely intelligent. I respect them. I give them the same amount of respect. And like I said, not only human beings, every living thing on this planet should be respected. Everybody, every living thing, every species has same. Every species have right to live because the God created all these species because they 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 have their own space. They have their own space, and everybody should use the spaces that they have. Sometimes this happens, but people like you, great people like you, using the voice and trying to show whenever this happens, this discrimination happens, it's important for you to raise the voice and tell this should not be done. And that's really inspiring. That will benefit a lot of people. That will make a lot of people, because of your podcast, a lot of people get confidence because there is a person who is talking on behalf of us, or there is a person who is uh, uh, telling what we have experienced in our lives. So you're making point, and you're putting it in on the public platform. That is very important what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. You know what's interesting? I actually almost started studying different types of like computer development. I was planning on becoming like AWS certified and all that, but life just put me in a different direction with marketing and podcasts. So I was almost up there with you.
But that's an interesting subject. Most of people I know are into that AWS. So even I have that interest, and I'm studying that, and I'm doing this podcast in order to understand, in order to build my communication skills and understand different people thinking and understand their experiences.
Oh, that's really cool. So this is like your opportunity to kind of similar in a way, kind of hear the experiences and stories from other people in
Yeah.
your field and just whoever else comes along the way. That's cool. That's
So at
really cool.
last, do you have anything to say to the world and to my audience who is watching and listening to this?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for kind of hearing my story. Thank you for listening to the work I'm doing. I love to meet new people. So honestly, if you ever anyone listening ever wants to just send a message, doesn't have to be anything important. You just say hi. I'll say hi back. I like meeting new people. And also, I just want to say that for anyone, black or not, but if you're just kind of questioning your own identity, I really encourage you just to dive deeper within, just to really look at like who are you, with like who are you and what does that mean, and just letting you know that it's okay. You don't have to be like anyone else. Who you are, how you talk, how you walk, how you look, how you think, it's important. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And when the time's right, I would encourage you to share who you really are. I think you might be met with opposition. People might say, "Oh no, that's not okay. That's wrong. That's not how you should be." But that's just their own insecurities coming out. That's something I learned from one of the leaders on my podcast. Like, don't change who you are to make others feel comfortable. Who you are is beautiful, wonderful, and it's who you should be. So that's what I'd like to end with.
So I hope because of your presence, because of the life you got, I'm sure because of the energies that you have, the world will get the positive energy that you have, and I want the more people in the world to get affected because of the positive energy that you have. I'm sure your words will create the positive effect in people, and also will help people to help in their personal growth.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope it does as well. And thank you for the work you're doing too. I really love show. I think you do a great job with it. It's really amazing just to see like how many interviews you have. So yeah, you're crushing it. So round of applause to you. This is great.
So that's what my last question is. So have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube, and what do you say about it?
So Steve Worthy, and he's actually the person who I guess got us connected. Steve Worthy was on your show, and one, I just kind of love, all the content that he creates, his message, but I really love, the interaction between the two of you, and also just in general, just watching your other content. I think is really cool. Like you really like you were talking about how you like to speak to people in different areas, but you really do that. And I think you do a great job at giving space for people to kind of share what's on their mind, for people to, you kind of create a really cool learning environment. So I think you're doing a great job. I'm a fan of what you're doing, your show. And yeah, I can't wait to see what comes next. Maybe Jeff Bezos will get on and talk about AWS. So yeah, opportunities are endless. Keep going up.
So I'll put your links, your web links, your podcast link in the description of this video. People who finds our video on YouTube can see the work that you're doing.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. And oh, did you want me to say the links too?
Yeah, after this video you send, I'll put the links
Okay.
in the description. Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. And can I put this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
Yeah. Yes, you can. You can put it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you want to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, and also can I put this video on my podcast, website, internet,
Yes.
social media, everywhere with your permission?
Yes, you have my permission to put it everywhere, anywhere.
Awesome. So thank you, Walter, for giving me your valuable time and spending your valuable words with my audience.
Yes, and thank you for your time. I really appreciate this.
So take care. See you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Yeah.